Welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast with author Sarah F. Hathaway and co-host Chen Gibson. Blending survival, fiction, and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sarah F. Hathaway and Chen Gibson.
Hello, and welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 466, and we got one heck of a show for you guys today. We are 1 week past prepper camp today. Hurricane Helene came in and hit us all while we were at prepper camp. By the grace of God, we only had a couple of trees come down on the whole property. It was chaos all around us. But we had a lot of the PBN hosts out there, so we thought it'd be a fun show to have everybody on. Well, not everybody that was there, but we tried to get a lot of us together. So I've got, first up, Ryan Buford's here with us. Hey, Ryan, what's going on?
Hey, how we doing? It's great to see you. Hear you again, anyway.
Yeah. We're not worrying about not getting out this Sunday.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's kind of nice.
Right.
We got Douglas Hogan in the house. How are you, Doug?
What's up, Sarah? I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I finally got to calm down a little bit on Friday, so it was a good day. And of course, I always let the ladies go first, so that's why we had Ryan and Doug up first.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate that.
Hey, So we've got Jordan Smith in the house. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, y'all.
And we got JB in the house. I'm going to get up my live chat here. So, hi, JB. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
You're home. You were like the last one, first one in and last one out. You guys got to give JB a hand because, oh my gosh, crazy experience.
Yeah, I think she just got home.
Yeah. When did you get home,
right.
JB?
Friday.
Yeah.
Got home on Friday.
And when did you first start doing runs out for gear and stuff for prepper camp this year?
2 weeks before the event.
2 weeks before. So this has been quite a month for you. Quite a month.
Definitely been an adventure. Do it again.
All right, so let's just go around and we'll just kind of talk about, before prepper camp, I was watching the weather for days. And it was clear. It was going to be sunny. It was going to be beautiful. And wasn't nothing in our way. And then this disturbance starts in the Gulf. So just some of your guys' thoughts on like what you were thinking. We all still showed up. Some people didn't. And just some of your thoughts on how that process was for you. Go ahead, Ryan. Start us off.
So, yeah, I also watched for several weeks ahead of time. I booked my flight, and so I flew in from Washington State, and I booked my flight back in, February in my hotel in maybe May or June, because I flew into Charlotte and then caught a ride to get over to prepper camp. But I was watching the weather and really paying attention, especially the 10-day forecast, because that was going to dictate my gear that I was going to bring and changes in that regard. So, yeah, I was definitely expecting rain this year, but nothing like what we got at all. So I had to change out some of my pack and make sure that I had the right gear on hand to make it through the weekend for sure.
How about you, Doug, coming in from Midwestern boy there?
I just changed my microphone up. Can you hear me all right?
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you good.
Okay. No, so yeah, I mean, we knew in advance that this beast was coming in. Didn't know how crazy it was going to be. I knew that it was coming inland. Usually these things don't go so far. They kind of break up and turn into a tropical storm before they get usually beyond Florida or whatever. This one had a little bit more juice behind it. You can look at the conspiracy theories and maybe see how they were saying some of the stuff was coerced, whether it was coerced a little bit, and it seemed to linger. I know as we were there, I could see that it was because our signals were in and out, and I just feel that it kind of lingered a little bit longer than it should have. It should have been pushing on, just kind of almost sat in one spot and just kind of spun over us.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, knowing that it was coming, I came prepared for wet weather. I mean, I had my frog tog tops and my black waterproof kilt. And
your skirt, your sassy skirt.
Yeah, but you know what? I learned that nothing is waterproof.
Yeah, fair. I had rain gear with me, so I learned that as well. Okay, Jasmine. So, what? Actually, let's have Jordan go first, because Jordan, you're really close. So
I am, and I grew up in the foothills, and like I've said on the Monday night show and on my show, I am accustomed to tornadoes hitting, not tornadoes, sorry, hurricanes hitting, but they usually die down. This is actually the first time a hurricane has ever hit as intensely as it has and kept going.
Yeah.
So for us, though, even the forecast, like you said, we weren't seeing it as anything. In the news, we're saying once it hit landfall, it would die down, it would pewter out. So for us, I mean, we didn't see it as a concern. Like I said, I grew up in the foothills of the Ozarks. So by the time a hurricane hits us, or even my family or who are here in the Appalachian and Smokies, it's not an issue. So we didn't even think twice about it. I mean, luckily we were safe, but I never got one of those odd feelings. My family and my infant son, we still went. And I tell you what, knowing what I know now, I still would have gone. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we were as ready as we could have been, but there was no way for us knowing that it was going to keep going the way it was. But it didn't stop us. We came in actually, we headed out Wednesday night at about midnight and got into Orchard Lake probably about 5:12 in the morning. So, you know, for us, we were able to get in, and then once we figured out what was going on, get set up. So it was one of those, we had no way of knowing what the storm was going to do once we got here.
Bring, right. So JB, you were almost on the road as that thing was forming. Like, you almost left when it was still clear forecasts. How did that, how did that transpire? Like, finding that out as you're going back and forth?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I didn't know until I got there that it was going on, because until it started pinging up in our back room chats. But I was just going along. I was preoccupied with my own little
too busy
personal apocalypse on my trip getting there, because I was like gung-ho that I was going to make it to this thing, because I had all of the audio visual for the event. Mm-hmm. So I was making sure that I was going to meet my deadlines and driving the whole way through. And then when we got there, because I had to ditch most of my preps in my car in South Dakota along the way, we had to pick up new stuff there when we got there. And when I got there, we just got the warnings tropical storm coming through, and it really wasn't anything that was alarming to me.
Right.
When the storm actually hit on Thursday night, I was staying in Asheville in a hotel, the Clarion, and I was looking out the window and I'm like, those trees are moving. It's just kind of like at home, because we get gale winds off the coast, and used to seeing our trees bend. So I wasn't too worried. It wasn't until I got on the roads and I was like, whoa, this is bad.
Yeah, coming from Texas, we saw what was happening down there. And, I mean, we're in Texas, so there's lots of hurricanes that come up through. And when you're on the outskirt of a hurricane, it can be going by and you don't even know it's there. So from what we could see, it was forecasted to come into Florida, be a problem in Georgia, and then go up and break up over the mountains and head out into the Ohio Valley. So we were like, you could be right on the edge of a hurricane and never even know it's there. So as long as we get out ahead of it, going to Georgia, we should be fine. So we loaded up, took off early so we could get a jump on it. We did hit rain at Atlanta on Wednesday night, and then came in Thursday. And I mean, we were playing Uno and having fun on Thursday night. So it was quite an unexpected moment, I'd have to say, of just I don't think anybody expected it to hit like that at all. I do have to say that it was disaster all around us, guys. All around us was destroyed and landslides. And we went out on some of the roads to try and go back road home. and it was absolutely just destroyed. And so I do have to say
But
that
we had...
What was the grace of God?
Yeah, we have no clue, though. We had no signal,
we had no idea.
No service. There was no way for us to know the level of devastation. Like, for me, honestly, it was like one of those heavy storms like I grew up with. Trees fall.
Yep.
So beyond that, I mean, I didn't realize the amount of devastation after the fact.
There was no
after
way
the
to
fact.
know. We couldn't get any news in. Yeah.
No, and even with the not the Skynet, but it was, even with Starlink, we could get a message out and allow someone to make a call out, but we still had no clue.
And like everybody else was really assessing their current status at that point as well, and they couldn't really tell the world what was going on either right then. So, Friday we did a late start. I think it was great that we did our classes and stuff on Saturday, because the people that were there, that were already tucked in, that just spent that night in Tent City, they would have been devastated if we didn't, pull it off.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were already there, though. I don't think people realize is a lot of us, just like Jasmine, we were already there.
Yep.
If not the week before, if not the day before. There are people who come in specifically an entire week before prepper camp to enjoy their time.
Right.
There was no way of knowing. Once you get up on that mountain, signal is sparse to begin with, especially if you're Verizon or AT&T. Unless you're T-Mobile, I don't get signal up there.
Yeah, I hardly do. It's got to be like a hotspot out Wi-Fi call. So, Doug, you came and got me on Friday. We were just about to nap out. That was after the big storm. We were all parked in a pack. The fields were just slosh city. So that was interesting. What do you guys think about like your classes that day? Just some of your personal experiences there, because our beloved prepper camp event, we had to pull it off. So some of the feedback there.
Yeah, so for those that are listening don't know, like vendors and instructors expected to be there a day early. Vendors specifically, I believe, got to be there a day early because so we were supposed to be, teaching starting Friday morning, right? So we got to be there Thursday, which is why we're all there early. Even if like what Jordan was saying, you could be there a week early, but vendors got to be there a day early. So I was there Thursday, and we were supposed to set up that Thursday, but because of the weather, we didn't set up that Thursday. In fact, originally we were supposed to set up at 1:00 Friday, and that ended up being like 5:00 Friday. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up getting, you're right, it was all slushy. Like there was the field, the pond, the lake or whatever you want to call it. It's a rather large pond, but the dock was at one point underwater, and nobody could find it. The boats were gone. I think they were attached, and they were missing. And the trees, and the things around the pond, lake that people thought were normally on the ground, you couldn't see the base of them anymore because they were under the water. However, where we were vending in our tents, it wasn't dry by any stretch of the imagination, but the ground was sloshy. Right, and then you see people like I think it was Jordan. I think you were wearing like, what was it, Crocs or flip flops or something. You and Chris?
I was actually in children's sized rain galoshes because I can't find my shoe size to save myself.
EJ Snyder was there from Naked and Afraid. He walked around with his size 14 freaking feet. Every time he stepped into every time he stepped down, all the water would suck out from everywhere around the campground and just kind of go down into his foot. And then he'd let up and come back out again. It was like
he threw those shoes.
Yeah, he was completely barefooted. Like he was just walking around barefooted. And I wish, looking back, that probably would have been the way to go, because my socks, I brought extra socks because I knew it was going to rain, but I went through them all. And I was actually hanging them up in the truck to dry. Some of the ones that got wet earlier in the week, hanging them in my truck. It took me 2 days when I got home to clean the smell out of the cab of my truck. It was just musty, freaking, sweaty, wet clothes smell. It was gross.
And Brock's like, he's a Marine, and he only brought 2 pair? Way to go.
No. I brought 2 pair of long, like boot socks because I expected 2 days of rain. I wouldn't like I said earlier, none of us were expecting this thing to linger as long as it was. Yeah. But I brought 2 pairs of boot socks, so I expected 2 days of rain. And then I brought more like I wear like ankle highs with my tennis shoes. So I brought lots of those just because I like to keep my feet dry. I knew that the ground was going to be a little wet, but not. I didn't know I was going to step in literally a creek running to help somebody set up their canopy.
Yeah, I was like, what happened to you? You're a mess, man.
You saw me. I was normal, right? I was all fairly dry, at least at my knees, and then all of a sudden you see me, and I'm covered. Next time you see me, I'm covered in mud. I just got this brown clay substance all over my legs. It was gross. So what happened was there was this guy by himself trying to pull this giant canopy. It's really a 2-man job to open those things up, and he was walking around it, and he was laboring. And I'm like, oh God, So I went to jump over this little creek, and land on the other side. And the other side, which should have been hard, I sank. I'm tall, I'm 6'5", and I sank from my foot to my knee, just straight down into this clay.
Oh, you did.
Just,
it was like quicksand.
Yes, and that just it made this slurping sound when I pulled it out. It was.
Oh man.
That's what I get for helping you.
For helping. The guy. Yeah, no. Yeah, right. Ryan,
my partner.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, JB.
Oh, I was going to say my partner was rocking the Ziploc bags for his feet because he didn't listen to me.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
I
was like,
actually
that's
have
pretty smart.
A picture of that posted on my Instagram because it's smart, but it is definitely entertaining. But like Doug, I had the same issue. As I was walking, it was well before the porta-johns, but I took a step and I sunk all the way down to my knee. Though it was just interesting. And I'm not 6'5", I'm only 5'2". So for him, it probably would have been ankle deep. But for me, it was all the way up to the knee.
Yeah. Ryan, now I got to hand it to you because we all had vehicles. I even had 2 vehicles there because Ellen drove one of my cars over there.
Right.
So, and I got to give it to you, man, because you weathered that storm. You didn't even have a vehicle there. Talk about some of your gear and how you pulled that one off.
So I was hammock camping. Everything that I had with me, I carried on the plane. I didn't check anything. So I had a backpack, what's it called? Hyperlight mountain gear. They make dry bags that are backpacks that are extremely light. So I had that, and before I left, I realized that we were looking at anywhere from 10 to 12 inches of rain. And the day that I was getting ready to drive to go to the airport to get on the plane and go, I made a last minute decision because I was like, is this going to work if I take my normal leather boots and go, or am I going to have to do something else? And at the last minute, I decided, you know what, I better take rubber boots and just deal with it.
Smart
because
call.
having rubber boots and being slightly uncomfortable is better than being, having leather boots and being extremely uncomfortable with wet feet. So I decided at the last minute to just go ahead and suck it up and wear rubber boots through the airport. And I packed a weatherproof parka. What is that called? Parka.
Yeah.
Poncho. There we go. A poncho. And I got one that was it's a style of poncho that actually transforms into a tent. And it's made by One Tigress. I believe it's a company out of Salt Lake.
That thing's pretty cool because it covers your whole bag and everything. That's for year 1 at Prepper Camp. I figured out that my go bag is not waterproof, so that had to be rectified. Everything that's in there now is wrapped up.
Yep. And before I left, I went and bought 2 more dry bags that are made out of a fabric called SIL nylon. SIL nylon, and it's kind of it's like Dyneema, but it's a little bit different. But it's 100% waterproof and extremely lightweight. So I went through and I decided, you know what, if this is as bad as it's going to be, I'm going to need to pack stuff in dry bags instead of just shoving it in the pack. So I kind of went above and beyond to keep my stuff dry, and that alone saved me because so between the poncho and the rain boots and the dry bags and the dry backpack and all that kind of stuff, I actually had no problems with keeping my gear dry. The only issues that I had were the clothes that I was wearing. So I just wound up, setting that stuff aside and hang drying it. But a lot of that was last minute decisions that I made to my pack.
Good ones.
Yeah,
that was impressive. I was like, man, you don't even have a car. Like, at least we had like a reprieve area for a second, to be able to get out of that rain and just have that zone. So,
yeah. And one thing I did as soon as I got there too is I realized that. So I went from Tent City over to one of the campsites because they offered it up. There was a couple of cancellations, and I was like, shoot, for $15 more, like, let's just do it. And actually, I had some extra gear with me, and I'll talk about that later in the show because I wound up loaning some of that out to somebody. But anyways, so I realized that this thing was coming, and it's going to be a challenge to stay dry. And I've done dry runs in wet environments before, so I knew what it was like. I've tried to start fires in the rain before, and so for me, this wasn't my first rodeo dealing with outdoor camping, minimalist, outside in heavy rain. And I did all that in safe environments, like in my own house. But this was altogether different and something that was just like,
And, my trailer didn't even hold up to the 18 inches of rain or whatever that came in. Yeah. It was a lot, and it came in really fast and really quick. So, I can't, I mean, every single piece of gear was put to the test. So I want to address, before we get into the gear, because we're going to talk to you guys about some of the tips that we found out as we went along. But before we go there, I wanted to talk a little bit because there's been some negative attention towards Rick and Jane about not calling the event off. And so I wanted to touch base with that a little bit because, first of all, it really bothers me. Every year of their life, they take the time to host this event. And if anybody thinks that they're making money at this excursion, they're absolutely 100% wrong and have never come to the Saturday night event to listen to Rick and Jane talk about their experience. And, most years they're barely breaking even to get the expenses paid. The tickets hardly ever go up. And they've been doing this for a decade long. So this was year 11. So if you can imagine taking a huge part of your life and just dedicating it to making sure that people have access to people who are instructors and can teach and provide the safe space, and they never make a big deal out of it, and they don't want press there. They just do this because they feel driven to do that. And they took a lot of heat over the fact that they didn't cancel the event. So a little background, you don't just order this. Like, there are huge tents there. We almost lost the main tent, actually. It's the size of a house out there in a field. And everybody was out there dragging it down. But you don't just order this stuff in 1 week and get it delivered the next week. This planning goes in well ahead of time. The Hurricane, on the other hand, was the surprise event. And for anybody who was like, Rick was encouraging people to come in even when it was Hurricane, I have to strongly disagree with that because Rick was concerned about his own house and his house being there and his animals still being alive. It was very much a scramble moment. And you can look after the fact and say, well, this, that, and the other. But, you just never know. And this is not something that can be planned in a day or canceled in a day. There's people that were already there. There's people that are coming in from way across the country, from other countries. So I don't know how you guys are feeling about that, but that's just like my feeling on it. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on
May I
just
go
how
ahead and
heartless
jump in with you?
some of this has been.
So I have seen the negative effects the negative comments, and I don't think people realize this really was an act of God. This was not something Rick, Jane, or the rest of us could have ever imagined or even have foreseen. Like I said, I grew up in the South. I grew up in the lower half of the mountains, and I can tell you it was an odd thing, but the amount of grief they're getting, I have firsthand saw a vendor come up and approach Rick and ask, so what's the call? And Rick told him, I can't make that for you. Right now, we're waiting to see what the weather does. Once it clears on Friday, he goes, but if you feel it is the best thing for you and your family, then you are welcome to leave. He never made anyone stay. He never told people that they had to come on. They just when we had enough signal to get messages out, just like they did, it was literally, we're not closed yet. We had no way of knowing. So I think they made the best call for the situation they were in, and pardon my language, but it was one of those damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because what would have happened if they had canceled it and nothing had happened and it threw past?
Right. Then they would have been like, what are you guys preparing for?
Right.
Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And that
So
would have been
I
just
think-
negative. Also,
when it comes,
everybody should know that Rick and Jane and them are still without power, still without internet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been messaging them and you haven't heard a response yet, they don't know what's going on. They can't get message out. They're on very limited resources right now. So as soon as things are back up and running, you know they're going to be reaching out. They're nothing but good-hearted people. So just please be patient with them. They are still in the middle of this. They didn't get to drive home to their home that's not in the disaster area. We did. So just please be patient with them and understand that they are going through it right now.
Right, because they live in that area. But I honestly think they made the best call. And for the people who were already there, especially the people who weren't as prepared as the rest of us, or not everyone can be as awesome of a prepper as Ryan. And I mean that in a positive, but it is definitely one of those things where I think it came about because I still had an amazing class both on Saturday, and even though Sunday was not as much of a turnout, I had a great one-on-one with someone that I would do it again.
Yep. And prepper camp being in there, we got roads cleared before they were supposed to ever get cleared. One of the ladies right down the street went into labor during the storm. She was able to get out to a hospital that didn't have power, but still she was able to because prepper camp was going on. There's differences that we made in the community.
Right. I had a prepper, I mean, not a prepper. I had a local come up who attended prepper camp and tell me, what y'all did, we thank you. Because emergency services would have maybe gotten to us at earliest Monday or Tuesday. Then when I came down the mountain on the way out, I had this gentleman we were just trying to see if we could find milk for Jericho. And he even said what we did helped because of the fact that he had to cut himself out of his driveway, that he said that it made it so much easier for him to get down to be able to help people because he figured he was going to be spending the next 2 days because he said the mountain does not get touched until about a week after any sort of disaster.
Right.
And so for him and then the other lady who was further up the mountain, which they were all safe, fortunately, us being where we were was a blessing. Yeah. But they said they were able to check on the elderly and the sick and the individuals who lived on the mountain who would not have gotten aid from any emergency services for almost a week if we hadn't cleared the road. So prepper camp being there, no matter how negative people want to put it, I'm sorry you went through the disasters you went through, but as a group, we made a difference even locally. And you know what? That small difference made a big difference just for those lives right there.
Right. What about you, Doug? How was your class, and how did everybody respond? What was your feelings there?
I think I had good attendance. I'm going to let it, whoever, I think Ryan was there. I'm not sure if anybody else in this here
I didn't make it. I was going to come the next day and then.
It was hard to tell that there wasn't going to be a next day, right? It was just one of those things, but
just
it
for
was
the
good,
audience too, so the audience knows, next week we're going to do your class on the podcast so everybody gets to experience it because it's I wanted to experience it that bad. So stay tuned next week. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
It's okay. No, I actually it was surviving martial law for anybody that's wondering, and I actually a long time ago, several years ago, I was vending as an author at Sensible Mountain Preparedness, and I learned that if I let me see, what was it? Oh, because the table, you had to pay for your vending table, but I found out that if I was just to teach a class, that I wouldn't have to pay for a vending table. I'm like, that's a good deal. So I put together Surviving Martial Law, which was an idea that I had been working on anyway for some time because I wanted to put something together, and it was a success. It was actually originally a 1-hour course, which I had way too much content to cover, and I ended up going over. And the people that was there to help kind of regulate the timekeeping and all that came up and say, hey, man, your time is done. And I had so much. He literally got booed because he had to come up and get me, and they wanted me to keep talking.
Right? Yeah. It was a good turnout.
Right, and they understood that. So they gave me, the next time, they gave me a 3-hour class. I'm like, yes! So did I have enough content for 3 hours? No, but I made enough content for 3 hours, right? So it ended up being so good that I wrote it into a book. And so I've been teaching this for years, surviving martial law, for at least probably 5 years, I'm going to guess. And it's always a success, and it's always got good turnout, and I always get a lot of good compliments out of it. And this class was the first time I ever taught this at prepper camp. And I originally pitched the idea to Rick, and Rick actually, I guess he told you that he really enjoyed the content that I gave him, and he had emailed me back and told me that it was good stuff. And all the chairs were filled, as I recall, and there was people standing up even though we had extra chairs that kind of people could grab and kind of sit down on.
Yeah, we didn't want to sit.
I don't know, I wasn't really thinking about it, but I probably could have told you, hey, you grab a chair and sit down, just kind of make yourself at home. But I felt that I had a good turnout, and I'm gonna, when you get around to Ryan, let him talk about if it was a good content or not. But I did enjoy teaching. It's something I enjoyed talking about, and it had a good turnout.
Yeah, I wouldn't have changed it. Like I say, I think everybody that was at my classes definitely enjoyed it, and I think it was a magnificent distraction as well for them, because here they are. It was a rough night in a tent. And at least they got to, have some of the experience, because a lot of speakers didn't make it in and things like that. So, like I say, that nobody was encouraging them to get there. It was, you got to do what's right by your family. And when I wanted to leave on Sunday, that's exactly what Rick and Jane told me, is you got to do what's right by your family and get where you need to go. Because we weren't sure with gasoline what that trip out was going to look like. So
right, and it had been, it had started raining again, like the day of we taught. Saturday was our one class, and then it started raining again that afternoon, and it wasn't going to stop. It was going to keep raining. It rained all night that night, and it was raining the next morning when we got up, and conditions were worsening from what I was understanding outside, because the ground was already saturated, and that just means that more trees are going to fall.
Yep,
maybe the strong winds had died down.
Yep, more landslides too. Yep.
Yeah, so we got land. Okay, maybe the strong winds are gone, but the ground at this point was so vulnerable. There was no integrity in the soil anymore. So that's why, with not only with the wind, but the weak root systems now, because the ground had been raining for 2. We are now on the 3rd day of rain, and there was flooding everywhere, and the trees were falling. It was. We were, even if we wanted to leave, we couldn't have originally.
Yeah.
Because we know that people went out from our group to cut some of these logs that were falling, trees that fell over the road, just so people could get in and get out. And it wasn't just us, but these roads they pass through Pepper Camp, go to other residential areas.
Yeah.
And that made a way for these other people that were in the area. And so, just to touch on what you said and what Jordan said, this is still America, and he didn't make anybody stay. He didn't cancel either, which is fine. If I want the opportunity to make a decision on my own, if something's going to be open and I want to take advantage of it, that'd be my call. It's nobody else's fault. For example, if we're all preppers, right? I was ready for this. I was prepared for this. This is a good chance for me. Yes, right. I know that I'm going to a natural disaster zone. I understood that. As an adult, I'm making that decision, and it's not nobody's fault but my own to step up and to face that challenge. It's no different than anybody else that goes on these television shows, these survival shows. They know they're up to the task. They know what they're going to do when they go out there and they're walk around naked in Africa or freezing somewhere, right. in Canada, or what I'm saying. They know that the challenge they're facing, and they're making that decision on their own to put their own skills to the test. And I appreciated that opportunity.
Ryan, JB, you want to add anything else?
Yeah, go ahead, Jasmine.
Oh, I would do this all again. I was definitely test and throughout the whole trip, and I found out things that worked well and what didn't, and really that I had the tenacity to just push through it, which was really good. And some of my preps helped people along the way. I was able to get my Starlink up and running at a hotel that had was running off of generators. They had no internet. There was like 480 plus people that didn't have access to the outside world and were panicking because they couldn't get a hold of their loved ones. And
that's so amazing that your hotspot could do that. It's so cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like I'm sold on Starlink. I love it. Because I was able to provide those people that sense of comfort and that normalcy and being able to get out to the outside world. It also helped us get a hotel room, which was inadvertent.
Right.
But it was, I would do it all again because we got to help the locals in the process of it. And we were thanked so much because of our presence there.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that Jasmine's giving herself enough credit
at all
for being able to provide that. So, and for the listeners out there who don't realize, so she drove from Washington State 2,500 miles to this campground in Saluda, North Carolina. In doing that, she provided all the audio-visual components for every single tent at the event so that we as presenters could do our thing. And I was kind of like, well, shoot, if my whole thing it hinges on, like, when I teach freeze drying for survival, it doesn't exactly lend itself to anything else. Like, if I don't have a machine sitting there in front of me, which I'm not putting on a plane, I can't do a whole lot without a presentation or some sort of visual. Mm-hmm. And my ability to do that was 100% due to the efforts of JB. And, for her to be able to do that and also be able to connect us with the outside world.
Yes.
I mean, you think about what we were able to accomplish just on that hillside with communication. We had people with chainsaws. We had people with food when other people, because we were supposed to get food vendors that never showed up. Well, guess what? Pork Chop had all of his stuff there. All of a sudden, Jasmine left. We got to get her back because I want to make sure that her company gets a shout out because she started a company to be able to do this for Rick and Jane. And, this is pretty significant, really, for her to be able to do that and keep us going. So,
it's Biondi Entertainment, I believe. Biondi Entertainment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm almost 100%
so, yeah.
sure.
I'm trying to pull it up right now. I actually do have it in here. I'm just trying to find it real quick.
Yeah, and she broke down on the way there, had to get a U-Haul and go drive there, then fly back to South Dakota, or then take the U-Haul back to South Dakota, then fly in there, then get a rental car from there, and then that's when the rental car broke down on the way out in Henderson.
Died. Yeah. And then she ended up in South Carolina for a while. But for those of you who are interested in reaching out to her as far as her business, it is info@Biondi. Sorry, I'm spelling that. Saying that wrong. BIONDI entertainment.com.
Throw the link in the chat too I think you're there.
Perfect.
Yeah, throw the link in the chat for everyone. And I'll put it on the blog too.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
It was flawless from my seat as a presenter at the event and from what I was hearing from other folks. I mean, it was unbelievable, the difference just having her there for the presentation
and the workers.
But also
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the amount it took off of Rick and Jane and the entire Prepper Camp crew, it was a huge difference from the year before to that year. Like, she did phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on my classes, I think I did pretty well as far as things go. Most people appreciate my class and the things that I talk about when it comes to freeze drying. And I actually had a couple that reached out to me a couple days after I got home, just checking on me, just to make sure that I was okay and that I had actually made it home. And that's kind of the caliber of the people that attend this event. So I was really impressed with that for the folks that actually showed up. And I was kind of watching. So I was a sitting duck flying in 2,500 miles from home. There's not much I can do. if something goes wrong. I mean, I'm totally at the mercy of whoever's willing to give me a ride until I can get a point to where I can get another ride or a flight out or whatever. So I was kind of coming at this at a different angle. And so knowing that and being able to be relaxed and just be like, meh, I guess we'll see where this goes. I think that had a different perspective for me. I mean, it allowed me to just kind of sit back and watch these things happen and just be an observer. And some of the things that I really latched onto were the concept of who is actually showing up, who is going to do this. And I made it a point to thank the people who did show up to my presentation. And I tried to do what I could to go to other folks, and Doug's was an awesome presentation. First time ever. I mean, did a great job. But I think, in some cases, it makes, these are the types of events that separate the wheat from the chaff, as they say, where you start to realize when people are willing to show up and when they're not, and what kind of an impact that's going to have. And some people think, one of the key people that I cued in on that did not show up was one of the guys whose main presentation, and he's been a contributor for ages, is about having a group. But one of the things about a group is that you support the group, you stick it out. And I think people don't realize that when things go south, some people don't show up.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that that's going to happen. You're not going to, and I mean, even the people that are there now, I wish I could have stayed longer. I mean, I'm FEMA certified and ICS 100, 200, 300, 700, whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean that,
yeah,
we are out of it. Does that make sense?
It does, completely. Because when I got home, it was almost like survivor's remorse or something. I was like, how lucky am I that I'm over here worrying about having to, clean my trailer out and file a claim and get gear together, and they're still stuck in it. And I'm just it was just kind of surreal. Also just, as far as it goes, with what was going on, Orchard Lake Campground fared so well through that whole thing. And then driving out and seeing what we saw as far as the down power lines, some houses just split in half, people just stand there like deer in the headlights, piles of cars and tires just bulldozed into a pile on the highway. And, just knowing that kind of happened all around you. And then my husband said the half a tank of gas has never lasted so long in the truck, that we could get to the other end of South Carolina where the lines weren't so crazy at the gas stations and everything. I mean, everything just went so smooth for us that I really have to say it was just the grace of God. I have no other explanation for why.
I get it. We had the same. We made it 150 miles. And if it hadn't been for the other preppers, because we came in so late, we were on E. That a few people gave us some gas from their gas tanks. And I mean, from their gas cans. And we made it 150 miles before we actually had to stop. We actually, for us, was stopping after Columbia, South Carolina, because it was intermittent on gas stations and power. Mess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's jump into some of the gear. Some of the 3 pointers on stuff that you did right versus stuff you did wrong. Let's start with JB since we got her back.
For me, stuff that I did right, I think that my power inverter for the car and the Starlink was a huge blessing. It also helped, not only during the hurricane stuff, it helped when I was stranded in South Dakota when my car broke down. That was awesome.
Is that your little, what did you call it? The, what's the name? What's the brand name of it? The Jackery, right?
It wasn't the Jackery, but I could have used that as an inverter instead. I just didn't want to wear the battery down by using it as a pass-through.
Got you.
But it's just like a little 500-watt power inverter that you plug into like the cigarette lighter of your car, and it converts it into AC power from DC.
Perfect. Sweet. Yeah, we used to have those for camping in a van. Yep, I know what you're talking about. What else you got? That's your primary, or did we just lose you? She might have fallen off.
That was my primary. Sorry, I'm in a loud environment.
You're good.
And I think the other things that worked out well was, I guess our tents was really nice, and just having the amount of food that we carried with us and water, because then we didn't have to strain on the local infrastructure while we were heading out. So that was a lot. But I didn't use too much gear on this trip because I had to ditch most of it back in my car in South Dakota. So I was pretty bare bones on this event.
Got you. How about you, Jordan?
So for us, I thought I had done a good job at waterproofing our tent, which I have for the most part.
But come on, we took it.
But I realized, where they put the internal little mesh pockets hanging?
Uh-huh.
I actually have to go back, and I'm taking, not liquid silicone, like rubber silicone, and I'm going in and I'm actually fixing all of those internal stitch inseams, because no matter how much you Scotch guard, it is not going to create a full water barrier. So we did have an issue of leakage from those internal pocket points. So for us, it was more of a learning curve of, okay, so now I know I have to take the extra steps here and here, which was fine. We didn't necessarily get wet. Well, I did, because I slept right next to a pocket and it kept dripping on.
Nice. Yeah.
It was like 2020 all over again. But
yep.
But I was thankful so actually our biggest prep positive was actually Ryan Buford and his tarp trick to create us a little bit of cover to be able to get out of the rain. So because of that, we've learned we are going to look into investing into an extra canopy, just so we can now have one for all of us to be able to sit under and to be able to walk out from under our tents. So I enjoyed it, but it was definitely interesting to see what our gear could handle with the rain and what our gear couldn't. So for us, it's now an adjustment of upgrades of what's going to be good for which weather and what's not.
Yeah. Okay, Doug, how about you? You were in a hammock tent. And you got an awesome video out. If you guys haven't seen Doug's video, check it out on YouTube, kind of commemorating the experience.
Yeah, as you know, it's taken me years to refine, because I'm an avid hiker and camper. This is a passion of mine. I love going out, and I've hiked in every imaginable condition, and I've slept in every sub-zero temperatures, and I got every gear for everything that you can think, every season. On the note of waterproofing, it's important to note that as awesome as Dyneema fiber is, when you're sleeping under it, I had a really expensive Dyneema fiber tarp over my hammock system, and it's got doors on the side. It actually looks like a floating tent after you put the ridge line up and hang it down, and secure, your hammock inside of this thing. It's like a floating tent almost. However, that being said, when you're in that much rain, you find out really that there's no such thing as waterproofing anything. Right. Water will. I got a brand new roof on my house, and when that storm hit Illinois, the first day, water found its way in. Brand new roof. Just the first day.
Oh,
water will find a way.
Because I just got a new run on my roof from the big storms that came through Texas earlier this year. Yeah.
Water will find a way if there's enough of it. That being said, for my backpack, I had Z-Packs. It's a very expensive backpack. It's also waterproof, and all my stuff that I kept inside my backpack was all dry. The reason why I got wet wasn't because of my setup so much. It was my hammock straps when I hung them up originally, I didn't take into account the sag that over time with maybe the rain in the ground
or the trees just moving,
trees moving. When I was bouncing, because when that wind kicked in, even though me and Ryan was sleeping on the side of that mountain, the trees are tall, right? We were latched into tall trees, and they were swaying. And when two trees are swaying, you're like a yo-yo up and down, up and down.
Yep.
See what I'm saying? You imagine what this would do to a person. Like I'm bopping up and down in this thing. In the process of coming down, my straps begin to stretch over time. Okay, and Ryan saw my system. I'm inside of this cocoon, and basically a cocoon is a large insulated banana type thing that with a zipper. My hammock is inside of this thing, and you crawl into your hammock and you zip it up, and it's insulated all around you. Well, the bottom was starting to sag over time, and the water was coming down off the mountain and lightly touching the bottom of my cocoon. So that insulation was soaking up all that water. Meantime, on the outside, I'm a hot sleeper. So my heat is rising up, making the top or the underside of my tarp, it's condensating now because the rain is cooler. Yeah, the rain is cooler. The air is cooler than my body heat is putting off. And so every time a rain or something would drop on top of my tarp and things were falling from the trees, that water from the condensation would splash down on top. So I'm getting rain coming up, soaking up from the ground from the bottom, and I'm collecting splats of moisture over time across the top. So that's how I got wet. It wasn't, my gear wasn't faulty so much as it was that I didn't prepare good enough and keep my straps a little bit higher and tighter off the ground. And me and Ryan was kind of looking at the next night, and he said, "Man, I would latch it a little bit tighter because I like with a little bit of sag in it because I like to sleep almost like in the shape of a banana instead of laying straight across. 'Cause I like to lay. At least you can lay a little bit on your side if you got enough sag. You can't do that so much if it's pulled tight. At least I can't because I'm so long." Another thing that I think I would love to have had a system like what JB had with the Starlink. She saved my tail, not being able to communicate with my family.
Yeah.
They were worried about me.
Yep.
My mom was freaking out.
My mom was freaking out too. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I'm 52, Mom.
I know.
I got this.
But it never goes away.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and JB saved me, and I was able to reach out. Not only did she save me in that regard, but I was really worried that, like Brian was saying, the visuals for what I teach is very, very important. And so when I walk into my classroom and I saw that all that stuff was set, there's no power, but she managed to give me power. Right. Whatever she did.
Right. I know, miracle worker.
She's freaking awesome. And I had these televisions to go off, I was able to use my PowerPoint presentation with my clicker and my microphone, and it was awesome. And she saved my tail in more than one way. And I didn't get to thank her properly. I've said it a couple of times, but I can't say it enough. Can't put into words how much I appreciate her and everything that she's done. She saved all of us out there. So, and then I wish I would have taken some waterproof boots. The boots that I had are waterproof, but they're like the ones that go like ankle, like a little bit, they cover your ankle. I would have liked to have something taller, like what Steve was wearing, just kind of made midway up my shin or my calf a little bit. And that would have made a difference.
Yeah. I wear A Solo boots, and I have to give them a shout out because my feet were dry all weekend. I made sure I didn't go, knee deep on anything. But my feet stayed dry. Also, I had just gone and gotten Christian a new pair of boots, just a Walmart special, because at that age their feet are just growing like crazy. But those stayed dry as well all weekend. So you got to have boots, guys. You've got to invest in them.
What size do you wear?
I wear like a size 8.
Damn.
I know I'm short, but I have big feet.
I'm trying to find a good waterproof shoe that is a size 5 in women's or a 3 in children's.
You got to buy like a boy's. Yep.
I do, but it's so hard to find something with the support.
That's quality.
That's gonna
right.
Yeah. It's hard. So I figured I'd ask you because you and I are the same height. I wouldn't have imagined your feet were a bit bigger.
I know I'm short, but I have big feet. Yeah, my mom always was like, "You're gonna be tall, or you're gonna be a short little shit with big feet." So
I gotta throw. Okay, so Jasmine is putting here in the chat that it was Ken and a Chin.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's like Ken and Barbie kind of a thing. Ken and Chin.
No. But, maybe actually they probably wouldn't deny that.
Yeah, Ken and Chin.
Yep.
But
Ken might crack the joke. Chin would not.
Chin would be like, nah.
Well, I'm gonna crack any joke I can grab a hold of. So if I see a zing, I'm gonna snatch it up and run with it. You guys know me like that. But
it's not like I didn't sabotage you at prepper camp or anything.
Yeah. You could talk about that all you want to.
I sewed the hood with the eyes and the face still on it.
Did you?
Yeah.
I ended up rolling that damn thing up. The one that you sabotaged my poster, my banner. I rolled it up in there. Forgot that it was even there, so it stayed there like 2 days before I could get it off.
For those of you who don't know, Sarah and her family had googly eyes and mustaches. And she even stuck them on the back side of my shorts. And you know what's funny is I forgot they were on there until later in the evening.
Yeah, I was sabotaging everything. I got the golf carts. We got Doug's poster. Yeah, they got my posters too, actually. So the boys
I didn't see that. And then they got the back of one of my little capes, which it sold. Yeah. And I told them, I forgot this was completely on there. And they left it on there.
Nice.
And then I had forgotten, as a joke, Sarah had put them on the backside of my shorts. And I walked around with googly eyes and a mustache, a handlebar mustache on my tushy. For the rest of the day, I completely forgot it.
We were so strong. Yeah, it was really a wild experience.
She kept wondering why I was pinching her cheek. She's like, what are you doing?
It was good. Maybe I'll put some of those pictures up in the blog.
Oh no, you have the slow-mo, don't you?
I'm not gonna name who took that footage because his wife might get super angry. So it's nobody here. It's nobody here. So okay. So gear. Brock always gives me a hard time about bringing our go bags because he's like, we're in the trailer. What do we need to bring our go bags for? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what if we had to walk, right? So we always bring our go bags. Guess what was in our go bags? Hand saws. And so we had the hand saws there. Yeah, we didn't have a chainsaw, which is now on our road trip list. But having those hand saws and the hatchet was a game changer. So the go bags came in handy, even in the trailer, and the hand saws. My family's ability to adapt and overcome and work with each other and not get hot with each other and just stick together no matter what, always a game changer. Oh, I mean, every day, that's a game changer. But when you're in a high-stress situation like that, eventually one person's going to go down in stress. And when everybody else is just there, right, just scoop them up. So...
Yeah, y'all handled it in a very small space, too, on top of it, to the point that we are now going to, in the future, and I nearly brought it, is going to be bringing my indoor buddy heater. Yeah. Yes, I understand it can make the tent hot, but being able to dry things out, even our clothes.
Right. Once the inside of the trailer got, like, toasted, there was no coming back from that. It was just wet. And so having the extra clothes was
once
nice.
Everything gets damp, it's just hard to get anything dry. And like Doug said, that wet smell. You know how many
you're
times
sleeping
I had to wash?
Stink. Yeah.
Right. I actually had to wash all of our clothing, anything
pillows.
that was wet.
Yeah.
Twice.
Mm-hmm.
And then both times with vinegar, the second time on heat wash, just to get the smell out.
Yeah. And then in the future, we're never going to take another road trip without a chainsaw. We have them. There was no sense in us not having it available. So chainsaw is definitely going in there. And then 2 5-gallon tanks of gasoline will also be on hand. The other option is to add in a secondary tank to Brock's truck, but we'll probably just go with 2 of the 5 gallons. We had extra propane, but we didn't actually have extra gasoline. So that would have been a really good thing. And now, so those are kind of like the tips we picked up. Ellen did send me some tips that I think are worth sharing. So for her, she would have liked if we had better communications devices, like if we would have brought our Baofangs, so that even when we didn't have our cell phones, we would have had a backup. It would have also helped us in the car. She didn't have any cash on hand. She was depending that there was going to be the ATM there at Prepper Camp. Well, we didn't have any power, so no ATM, right? So, of course, cash, small bills, always a good idea. Rain jacket. So she didn't have space to pack a lot of stuff, just like Ryan. She was flying in from another country, so there was only so much space for stuff. So she said she bought ponchos, but the ponchos they didn't last, and she had only so many hoodies, and they just got soaked. A topper for the cot, or the cot was just kind of hard, and so that's, something that she would add to it. Wet wipes. I really like the wet wipes idea. Me and Ellen took the last lukewarm shower on Friday night at 12 at night.
Yeah, I got the cold shower. It was kind of lukewarm and then got freezing. Pardon, I don't know if you put your podcast as explicit. I do apologize, but as in the Marine Corps, we called it a hoe bath. Uh-huh. Wet wipes were there for a reason.
Right.
And we brought wet wipes, luckily, because after a cold shower, I did not want to do that again.
No. And it would have been really nice to have some wet wipes so that okay. So the comms again, and then one of her other big tips was ask for help when you need it instead of being stubborn and trying to just bullhead your way through something. But, instead of asking for help and being miserable, when you could clearly ask for help right there, and people would be there to help you. So we had to do the same thing. My husband was like, I don't know how we're going to get this trailer out of here. He was freaking out, and I was like, you know what we're going to do? We're in a community of preppers. We're going to get help, So, never be ashamed to ask for help. That's why we're a community. That's why we're all here for each other. And so that was one of the things that I had told her, we're always here for you. So please don't ever, don't hesitate to ask for help. Don't feel ashamed. Don't let your pride get in the way. So, yeah. So those are my list. Who hasn't gone yet? Did you go, Ryan? You're like the gear man.
Yeah, no, I didn't go. I think my gear really held up. And surprisingly well for what it was. I haven't really invested a lot of money. I mean, the stuff that Doug's got on his hammock setup is just unreal. And for the cost or for the price, you better stay dry kind of thing. But mine did surprisingly well. Some of the other things that I brought along that proved to be effective, I had a Zippo hand warmer, like a rechargeable USB rechargeable hand warmer that doubles as a power bank. And that actually was something that was useful, because I found that in my poncho, once I got wet, I was a little cold. So having that as an alternative heat source inside just kind of kept me from getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I also, I don't know if I showed you that or not. I think I might have shown Jordan. But it's called a Hyper Ice Venom Go. It's basically a heat. It's a USB rechargeable heating device that you can stick on your body.
I think that's the one you showed us.
Yeah, and it also
was really
vibrates
interesting
too. So
that's right. You did show us because we were laughing at you.
What was it called, Ryan?
But it's called a Hyper Ice Venom Go.
Okay.
And it's designed to be able to help with sport injuries for heating and massage. But I've been dealing with I've been doing a lot of heavy lifting, and it's kind of one of the things where it's it works as a heat, but it's also a massager as well. And that was kind of nice to be able to help a couple of times, whether it was heat or the massage side. The one things that I did find that were failures of mine were, and one more thing that actually did do well, because I can't really take a hoe bath because
you're not a hoe.
Right. But I did pack some it's a cleanser that's designed for men, and it's basically a pits and privates kind of wash.
Oh, okay.
But it's just
like a
foam.
Lumi, but it's like the Manva or whatever it's called, Manny or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's something similar to that, and I just put that on with my chemicals on my carry-on bag, and that was actually something that I hadn't used in the past, because usually I'll just steal soap from the hotel and then bring it to prepper camp and I'm good for the week. But
right.
I had a feeling that we might have water issues, so I brought that stuff along, and that really served me well.
Yeah, that was smart.
The cash was a big deal, so I'm glad Ellen brought that up, because I brought a couple $100, and my intention was to really support the vendors that did show up. But once I realized how bad this was, I wound up pulling back and rationing what I was planning to spend at the vendor booths, because I was really concerned that we wouldn't be able to get fuel on the way out without cash.
Yep.
So that was something where it was like, well, I had to kind of pivot there, and I'm glad I grabbed cash, but I don't think I grabbed enough. So, in the future, I'll probably rat hole a little bit extra to bring along.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think gear-wise, I did well.
We brought a good clutch. We always had a good clutch of cash. We never really switched over to using cards. And so when we finally did switch over to using cards more, it's just so foreign to us. So we always carry a good grip. But on the note of the vendors situation, guys, I have way overstocked my books right now. So I'm having my whole series on sale for just $100. So if you guys want to go out and grab some of my books, I got them on sale right now.
Speaking of which, Sarah, I meant to catch you before you left on Sunday, and I didn't get to. I want to buy the Burgess book to finish up my series. I don't have that one. So when you get a chance later, holler.
Okay. Yeah, or just, like I say, you can jump over to my website. I've got my store there. And Doug and I actually worked on a lot of, my covers and everything before we left. So these are the original covers. This is the last print of my original covers. So if you want them, you better get them now. I got them on sale for just $100 over there at the store, just because, needless to say, we didn't sell too many books in the rain, but we did have a blast with all our friends. And the classes went fantastic on Sunday, so no regrets at all, but definitely have some extra books if you guys want to pick those up.
You know what? Something I am going to mention for the vendor area is we were not opposed to barter and trade-in. And that right. I did a lot of barter and trade-in.
Me too.
That I went home with a half of a pork belly. That I cut that up in multiple pieces. It would have been perfect for bacon, but I just don't have the time to cure it. Yeah. But I have a good slab of pork belly in my freezer cut up into sections for different meals. I made trades.
I actually got the dental extraction kit and tooth cleaning kit. I've been looking for one of those that are affordable price for days. And so, nobody was really opposed to trading this year.
Right. They'll be at here in Myrtle Beach next weekend. So I had already told her when she came in, her and Dave, Dave and his wife, that I would be, David and his wife, that I would be coming in to purchase some things. Unfortunately, that was just a chaotic weekend. So, luckily they travel a lot of the gun shows and a lot of the prepper conventions.
So, guys, final thoughts before we wrap it up. I am going to do a Changing Earth news tonight just because there is too much good stuff. You guys are welcome to stick around or sign off. Totally up to you. I'd love to hear any final thoughts that you have or anything like that if we just want to go around the circle again one more time.
I was just going to say that it would be really nice if FEMA would stop interfering in the help that is trying to go in there.
Amen.
That's a whole other issue right there. The government, every agency in this government right now is doing the inverse of what it was designed to do. Every single one of them, and it's truly sad. But right now we got a lot of people, and I'm watching videos all the time of that's going up because Starlink. It's the only reason why.
Yeah.
We're able to see anything at all coming out of that area. Elon Musk
they didn't want in there, right? Which Elon, yeah.
Yeah, they don't want anything. They're just and now that the waters are starting to recede, they're finding bodies in trees, like in treetops, that were previously in the water, bodies. It's just, and people are trying to get in there and help, and they're being threatened with arrest. So.
I heard a story about a guy who flew in the helicopter. His son was in the helicopter. He flew this woman out. They told him he was grounded. He had to leave his son behind. They told him he had to ground it. He's like, I'm going back for my son. They're like, if you go back in the air, we're going to arrest you. When he got back with his son, they arrested him.
I saw where North Carolina police in certain areas are telling FEMA if they choose to interfere and prevent aid or rescue, they will be arrested, because there are so many times where I have seen where people have came in and were turned away and told to be taken to FEMA, and FEMA now are just taking food and funds from people and holding it. They're not giving it to people. They're holding it.
Yeah.
And how the heck are people supposed to take $750 from the government?
$750, which is a spit in the face.
Which blows my mind, because the immigrants who have came in from the border are getting $1,500 a month just in food benefits. That's not including housing, food,
$750.
and everything else. So, right, because all of the funds were blown on all these illegal immigrants that we can't give aid to our own people, and now FEMA's trying to interfere to update their stocks. Yeah, it's absurd. But I'm glad to see North Carolina sheriffs are now telling
stepping
if
up and
FEMA steps in,
FEMA
they
to
will
get
be
the
arrested.
heck out of there. Yeah. Also on my homepage of the website, Mercury One, Glenn Beck's, his broadcasting program, they are like just getting out of Hawaii right now. They've been in there helping that long. 100% of what you donate to Mercury One goes to relief efforts. They've had been working to get the internet hooked up with Elon. They've been on the ground from moment one. If you watch Glenn at all, you'll see that what's going on there. They do 100% of what you donate goes to those people and goes into those relief efforts. So it's somebody you can actually trust, because that's the other thing. Is who you can actually trust with this.
Well,
whole
Grindstone
process.
Ministries is also another one. I saw a video where they were hiking in directly and giving it to the residents directly. So Grindstone Ministries are another one of those.
I was also talking to Rick. Samaritan's Purse is good. Samaritan's Purse. So that's another one. And then send it to the churches or to Tryon, Tryon, Equestrian Center. They're distributing and really helping, doing a lot there. So there's a whole bunch of places you can go where help's actually going to get to those people. And, we talk a lot on the podcast. You cannot depend on the government in these situations. It is people that are going to help people, and they need to get the heck out of the way and let that happen. So, amen, Doug. Thank you for bringing that up.
No problem.
You also have another announcement. Let's just kill that right now. Go ahead and.
Sure. Well, because we're talking about the FEMA and how FEMA has actually been instigating and inflaming disasters. I mean, they're actually making the system worse. Mm-hmm. I'm wanting to put on the next show I'm going to be putting out Tuesday. We're going to be talking quite a bit about FEMA. And, I've been brainstorming for the past, probably close to a year now, thinking heavily about taking on another voice on on my podcast, Rising Republic. And I've been tinkering and playing around with the idea with it, and I'm like, I really want somebody. I'm okay. I'm comfortable with talking by myself, but man, the dynamics I have with just having a second voice on the show.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Right, and bouncing ideas and dialogue. I love that. And I needed somebody that I could have a really good chemistry with and just talk, and had to be somebody that I enjoyed being around and talking to, and somebody with like thoughts, and somebody that's cut from the same fabric that I'm cut from. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and I could never really know who to pick or who to even pitch the offer to. And I asked a couple people here recently, and two different people threw the same name out at me. And I never even considered it, So and it's surprising to me, because I really didn't know this person had already had experience podcasting. The person's already got the voice for it. I spent time with this person already. And I'm happy to say right here on your podcast, Sarah, that Ryan Buford will be joining me on the Rising Republic.
Yay!
This coming Tuesday.
There we go.
I'm stoked. You guys will be great. Well, it's TJ and Yuri. What are you going to do? See, it was meant to be.
Yeah, the voices.
It was meant to
the
be.
The dynamic duo.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We're gonna rock this thing, see what happens.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I'm excited.
I think you guys will really play well. I think that Ryan has a much more holistic view, and you've been in every trench of the government slime that there is. So I think it'll be a great show. A great pick. Good job.
I think it's going to be a really good yin yang kind of a thing, and from two different perspectives. Really, we view things the same way, but from different angles.
Right. Exactly. That's what I mean. You'll have unique views to really bounce with each other, yet that cohesiveness that really works. And like I say, it's TJ and Yuri, the TJ and Yuri show. I'm just giving you
the TJ and Yuri show.
It's like a sitcom. What are we going to do tonight, TJ?
Whatever you want to do, Yuri.
We're going to have a TJ and Yuri segment. Maybe a little commercial.
Well, Sarah's going to have to write some lines out for us because,
Ryan's got to have lines.
Yeah, Ryan does better reading.
It's just not quite as organic. Yeah. You just can't just pull out the Russian out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. No problem. We'll figure it out. We're also going to do another Family Feud episode soon. So it's going to be, I think I'm going to do Burgess's family versus the TJ family. So I'll get you up to speed on that one, Ryan. And I can't give you lines for that one. You're going to have to wing that one.
Have to try and make it up. All right. I'll try and wing it.
Yep. So, alrighty. Did we cover everything? Any more final thoughts from any of the ladies? Ryan?
I just want to say one thing. I have absolutely no reservations for having gone, and I wouldn't have done it differently. I think, I don't know what kind of background the listeners are from, or the people who attended the event, whether they were speakers or people who were just interested. But I have to say, after having observed what I observed at that event, even though we were going through something that was really absolutely chaotic, there was still something there. There was a presence there that protected us. And I think in a lot of ways that we were in that bubble with some of the best people that we could have been surrounded with.
Amen. And
for that to happen the way it did, when it did, this year as up in the air as things really were, I really wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else during something like this. And yeah, like Doug said earlier, we chose to go to this event knowing full well what we were getting ourselves into, but I wouldn't have done that with some of my own family members, to be completely honest with you. So I think that really we were protected, and having that high ground really was a significant component to our own survival and our ability to get out and get by during that event. So I think somebody was watching out for us, really.
Absolutely.
I agree. I'm going to segue on that is Ryan's 100% correct. If I am going to be in any extreme situation like we were, I am thankful that I was around other preppers and like-minded individuals, that it was one of those situations that truthfully other people were probably freaking out and stressing about, that it took a lot of that little bit of stress that I may have had and just washed it away. Yep. It was nice to be at ease knowing that I'm around like-minded individuals, and like you said, we had one situation where I believe God, I mean, honestly, with all the prayers we had and the high ground, that God was there for us, because Willow herself was in a situation where she woke up, something told her to move, and she moved. And not even maybe 2 hours later, Doug heard a tree fall, and it was the top of 2 trees fell where her tent would have been. Yeah. And that was the only place in that entire campground in which a tree fell. which right there tells you we were protected, we were safe. Which, I mean, it's terrifying. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to underplay it. But honestly, if I'm going to be in any sort of catastrophic situation or emergency or SHTF, I think we were honestly in the best position because we had other preppers, other like-minded individuals. And I can tell you this, Ryan now has me at a run for my money because he is now my old man's man crush for his prepper skills, on his lack of supplies and how well he does it and how manly he is when he does it. So Ryan, you and you're now my competition at what I can be as a prepper woman because, man, you got my old man crushing on.
And
I'm going to leave that alone.
And like,
if anything, but it's a positive though when you go into a situation where our prepper life skills are very different between myself and my partner. He grew up very inner city. I grew up very country. So Ryan, I don't mean it as a threat. It's honestly probably the biggest compliment I can give because I mean,
and
that
Ryan's ability to just like stay cool too, like in the face of
very little,
you know, even when, there's things going on, if he doesn't want to hear about it, if he's getting upset about something, you'll just see Ryan walk away. That's his way of being like, yeah, F this. I am not going to be a part of this anymore. So,
right.
Yeah,
but
phenomenal.
But it was just his ability to prep and to camp and to hold everything together with such amazing composure, which such amazing skill. That
I lost
it's one
my
of those
composure
things where it's like,
for a moment.
right, God bless. Well, I understand. I was calm the whole time, but the whole time I'm watching Ryan, I'm like, I want to be that cool. I want to be that prepper cool.
Yeah.
But it was.
The boys like lost the saws. I'm like, are you serious? We're finally ready to go. I'm like,
I heard there was a saw still stuck in some of the trees.
No, we got them all. We got them all. My husband had actually picked them up. So yeah, we did pretty good. But yeah, I lost it for a minute.
Oh, the saw stuck in the trees. That wasn't Morgan's fault, was it?
No. Morgan was an animal, though.
I'm telling you, totally said yes.
Pork chop was like, oh, you don't need that hatchet there, honey. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And then Morgan's like, here, hold my beer. Like, that guy was so awesome. He just went right through it.
Him and his Pumas and Ziplocs. Pumas and Ziplocs.
He went through, this log had to be like at least 6 inches thick, right? At the diameter. Okay. It was like a good size log. I'm not kidding. And he just starts going at it. He was like, I was raised country to begin with. And he just starts wedging it out. Dude, it was gone in like 20 minutes. I was like, what? Okay, you're awesome. You're definitely welcome. Yeah, he's definitely in. So.
Yeah.
That was good.
So moments with him and his little Ziplocs because I told him we needed to get him rain boots.
And he was like, nah.
I'm going.
But you know what? Everything we go through as preppers is a learning experience. So hopefully that is now his wake up call of next year of having either rainproof, waterproof hiking shoes, boots, or rain galoshes.
Oh, I don't know. I had a ball watching Doug tiptoe across the field all afterwards because his boots were all wrecked and he could only do the tiptoe dance.
Honestly, though. Even my rain galoshes were so wet at the pavilion when I was cooking breakfast or anytime I was at the pavilion, I was barefooted just because the rain kept getting in my shoes.
See,
I
mine, I was nice.
Understand,
it was comfy.
Need some waders.
Right.
We almost brought some. Christopher actually pulled some out and left them in the back of his work truck.
Oh, no. You probably would have been filled up.
But I want to throw in there that, like, I don't think we should have done this event any different than what we did, like what Rick and Jane did, because, like, if we canceled it, it would have put all those people on the road in really dangerous situations and turning those people, and it kept all the the newbies, distracted and preoccupied and safe in the location that we were at. So I think
absolutely, we were where we needed to be.
Yeah, and I agree with that, JB. Like, there was no way we were going to start moving trailers till that Sunday. I mean, we needed time to assess what was going on. If you have people just start freaking out, even me, if I would have tried to leave out on Saturday, it could have just been a way bigger mess, because at least, Sunday was still early enough that it wasn't like really locked down, but long enough that they already had some of it cleared and stuff, where we only had to do a little bit of work to be able to really start getting campers out of there and whatnot. So I think it would have been
and I don't think we realized how bad it was blocked in until Friday morning. Dave Jones said he tried to go down the mountain to get supplies, and then that's when they realized down both sides was blocked. And then that's when our boys went out and started clearing things.
Yeah. Yeah, Friday was definitely the worst for flooding. It was a mess. Like that second river almost came up over the top and everything. Yeah.
I saw some of those rivers coming through. Like it was like a brand new river going right through Asheville, because it took me about 4 hours for a 30-minute, drive.
Yeah.
And it was pretty intense. And honestly got out.
Yeah, I'm surprised you did too. I heard stories like people on the third floor apartment having to get roof rescued and like all their cats drowned because they couldn't get the cats out. Could barely get the person out. So, yeah, just really a mess. So, amen, guys. I'm so glad to have spent this experience with you. And, of course, you're all family to me now. And not that you weren't before this, but, disaster tends to make the family grow stronger. At least it always does with our family. And I'm honored to have spent the experience with you, and really glad and really thankful to the Lord that, he took care of us there. Everybody made it out safe. And it was great to have spent it with you.
Likewise.
All right. So you guys want to stick around for Changing Earth news, or are you going to bust out?
I'm going to go eat, man. It's 7:00 here.
All right. Get it on. Thanks, Doug, for coming on. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye. Anybody else? What are you guys doing?
I'm sticking around.
You're sticking around? Okay.
I'm kind of hanging around until I'm told I have to go.
Okay.
I'll hang out a little bit longer, too.
All right, cool. Alrighty, so I'm going to play some Changing Earth weather news, compliments of our intrepid commander.
Dream, survive, thrive. This is Changing Earth News.
Alrighty, Changing Earth News. So this week we had an X7 and X9 solar flares that came off the sun. Luckily, they were both short duration events. They thought it was going to have a bigger impact, but they look pretty weak coming in, which is surprising because we've had some M classes that have really, really affected our planet. So I was surprised by that. Plus, it's going to be like the 1-2 whammy punch because the X7 was so slow in coming in. But it looks pretty good. They should be hitting tonight. So we're going to know by the morning kind of what systems were affected. Last week, obviously, Hurricane Helene hit Florida, hit Georgia, hit North Carolina, Tennessee. Hurricane is headed for Florida as of right now, and then the second one is swooping up towards the UK. We'll talk about that in a minute. Nigeria braced for more flooding. The Cameroon Dam had to release water, so 30 people actually died in that event. They had another 1 million people affected by flooding over there. They have not been able to catch a break. It is literally the greening of the Sahara, or of the Sahara over there. Ethiopia, 79,000 people have been affected by flooding on the Ono River. And then in Nepal, pretty much the same day that Helene was hitting North Carolina, Nepal was getting hit by catastrophic flooding as well. Over 100 people were killed in the event on that day. They're still doing pickup rescues from that event as well. On September 30th, there was 309 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.9 in the North Pacific Ocean near Kamchatka, that's up in Russia. Philippines had a 5.1 earthquake hit Poro Cebu, a 4.2 earthquake in Aromas, California, that's Southern California. They've been taking a lot of activity over and over again. We're definitely keeping eyes on California right now. Vancouver, BC, and you guys up there in Washington also, the Cascadia, you need to be on high alert with what's going on with the activity. Vancouver, BC was hit with their first extreme snowstorm on September 30th. And then on October 1st, there was 370 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 6.6 in Tonga in the South Pacific Ocean. And giant dust storm hit Moscow. Southern Greece wildfires left 2 people dead. And northern China had its first snowstorm that trapped hundreds of cars and people. On October 2nd of 2024, there was 361 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.5 in the South Mid-Atlantic Ridge. There was a 3.9 earthquake that hit Southern California. It was downgraded to a 3.1. And then Nepal was hit again with more rain, more storms coming in. It's really a bad situation going on over there. Hundreds missing at this time. 70-mile-an-hour winds came in, caused a huge dust storm up in Pullman, Washington. Thank you, Ryan, for giving me the heads up on that one. I specifically went and found it because of you. Droughts in Spain, they're figuring out that instead of growing grapes for raisins and wine, they're now switching over to pistachios instead. They're having a boom crop. So it just goes to show, adapt and overcome. Whatever, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And if it's suddenly turned into a different area, we've got to be agile to be able to do that. So that was my happy news for the night. The line fire in San Bernardino has grown again. And then on October 3rd, there was 319 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.4 in Papua New Guinea in the South Pacific Ocean. 4.4 hit Southern California. In Iran and Bahar, there's flooding due to all the water that was coming down in Nepal. They had to do water releases, which is now flooding Iran. Typhoon Krathon hit Taiwan. They were really worried about that being a gigantic smack onto Taiwan. It did weaken, thankfully, a little bit before it came in. However, 2 people have died in that event, and it's left a trail of destruction. They've been hit a lot lately by cyclones. So, Romania, their agricultural sector has been pretty much devastated by drought over there. So we're always looking at like the feast and famine. We have these huge rain events in some areas. Some areas are still drought stricken out. It's getting more and more extreme. October 4th, 2024, there was 361 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.3 in the Southeast Pacific Rise. Flooding in West and Central Africa has left 1,500 people dead now, 4 million people affected, and 1 million of those are just in Nigeria alone. There was severe flooding in Bosnia that killed 15 people. They're still searching for survivors. Herzegovina was also affected. They're literally having to dig things out of the mud. We pretty much know what that looks like. In Malawi, Southeast Africa, they are delivering food aid to 5 million people that are stricken by drought. So the southeastern end of Africa is just really getting hit by this drought, while the north is just receiving all that water. Well, it's too bad we can't spread it out. Norway had a freezing storm, intense snowstorm, just really put everything in a standstill. It wasn't just, winter wonderland anymore. It was pretty much a chilling nightmare. On October 5th of 2024, there was 306 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.7 in Wellington, New Zealand. There was a 3.6 earthquake in Death Valley. Mount Adams in Washington is having earthquakes 180 times the normal rate of earthquakes there, so it's definitely eyes on that volcano. We know that the volcano counts up. That still hasn't changed even to this day. Huge dust storm hit Gansu, China. The Valley Fire in Boise, Idaho grew to 3,500 acres. They were issuing code red evacuation alerts for that fire. In Bolivia, they are racing to save the belongings as wildfires burn their homes. And there's evacuations for a wildfire burning outside of Moscow as well. Today, October 6th, there has been 342 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.2 in the South Pacific Ocean near Vanuatu. There's a 4.0 earthquake in Southern California and the Inland Empire. Florida is bracing for another impact from Milton. It has been upgraded now to, I believe it's been upgraded now to a hurricane from a tropical storm, but it is forecasted to be a Cat 3 by the time it comes in, and it's pretty much going to hit the same area that was just affected by Helene. So prayers for everybody there. Helene really took them out with the storm surge. Kirk is on track to hit the EU. There's severe drought in Guyana, South Africa, which is leading to a large livestock die-off. As far as our volcano numbers, still off the chart. I've never seen 36 erupting volcanoes on our planet in all of the years that I've been recording volcano. It was like a miracle to see 26 not so long ago. Now we're looking at 36 week after week after week. We actually moved up one as far as minor activity goes. We're up to 33 showing minor activity. So that's literally 69 volcanoes that are either erupting or showing minor activity right now. We also have 22 showing unrest. Still 91 total, same total from 2 weeks ago, but more and more are moving up into that active phase. Campi Flagre is still on the list. We're still watching that super volcano over in Italy, and Pele is still on the list as well. As far as wildfires in the United States, we're at a preparedness level of 4. We have 3 new fires, 28 large active fires, 1,131,206 acres actively burning. 2 of those fires are contained. Number 1 on the list is Idaho with 1 new fire, 16 current fires, 449,000 acres burning. 1 of those fires is contained. Number 2 is Oregon with no new fires, 9 current fires, 236,000 acres burning. Number 3 on the list is Wyoming, 3 fires, 114,876 acres, no new fires, but those fires are not contained. Number 4 is California, no new fires, 4 total, 45,000 acres burning. 1 of those fires is contained, and I know they've been making some big progress on those fires. What they need is some cooler weather. So there's your Changing Earth rapid fire news for today. It was a long show, so hopefully you guys got a lot out of it because I didn't really want to put a time frame on today. So it was a harrowing experience, that's for sure. You guys still hanging out there, Ryan, JB?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So what's going on with Mount Adams? That's right in our backyard. That doesn't sound too great.
180 times the normal earthquake rate is going on for that mountain right now.
It sounds like a prequel to Mount St. Helens all over again.
Right? Yeah, it's definitely eyes on that volcano. They haven't been talking right near that. I've also been looking at the Long Valley caldera that's down below Mammoth Mountain in California on the California-Nevada border. But yeah, Mount Adams is definitely making some noise. And I'm serious. I've never seen that many earthquakes or that many volcanoes actively erupting on our planet. I've been recording them for years. And it's just kind of curious, right?
Yeah, a lot of motion, a lot of moving parts and weird stuff happening on the weather fronts and extreme weather fronts, it seems like this year especially. Yeah.
With the polar shift, they're looking at more extreme high pressures and more extreme low pressures. So where those two collide with each other, it is creating some crazy weather like we just saw, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. JB, you want to give a shout out to your company before you go?
Oh, I don't need to, but...
We already put you in the chat anyway. So.
Well, it's Biondi Entertainment, and yeah, if you guys want to reach out to me or are interested in audiovisual services, just email me at info@beyondientertainment.com.
And she is Biondi awesome. And then Ryan, we're going to see you on Rising Republic. That's so cool. Awesome to have you back on board as a host. I was actually missing you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's about time I get back in the saddle. So that'll be good.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm happy to see you guys. Go ahead, JB.
Oh, I was missing him being a host as well.
Right? I know. I was like, Yuri and Sergey are great, but like, where's Ryan's voice? So,
yeah. Yeah, I've been on a bit of a hiatus, kind of getting stuff going here. So
sometimes it needs to happen. We all got to balance, everything that we're doing with our careers, with what we do with our passions, and then our families and our homesteads and all of everything. It takes a very big balancing act to pull it all off and have happy families.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, guys. Well, hopefully JB is coming down my way soon. I'm going to steal her from you, Ryan. She's coming down to Texas, so.
She deserves whatever positive vibes get sent her way. So I'm sure she'd be able to do fantastic with that business down in your region too.
Yeah, fair. All right, well, let's go ahead and get the heck out of here. Thank you guys for coming. It was a great show. Hopefully the audience got a lot out of it because we certainly learned some cool lessons along the way. Thanks again for coming in. If you guys want to check out the books, grab the books, $100 for the whole series. Never done it before. ChangingEarthSeries.com. I got the blog up there, the shirts there. You can give money there. So just check it out, ChangingEarthSeries.com. And thank you guys one more time. Appreciate you. Alrighty. Until next time, remember, dream, survive,
thrive.
Yes. Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining Sarah and Chen for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, Battle for the South, Dark Days in Denver, and The Endless Night at www.authorSarahFHathaway.com. If you love the Changing Earth series and podcast, become a supporter while you're there.